Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
In business, you try to be polite, thoughtful, and agreeable, knowing that it's important to get along with people and build a respectful relationship. But no matter how hard you try, sometimes you run into people that are just plain difficult to deal with. It could be your boss, a coworker, or even a customer. So what do? How can you build that relationship without being a doormat? Well, listen close, Pilgrim, as Scott and I discuss dealing with difficult people and other important issues on episode 480 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Was that Marion that you were imitating?
Yes.
The Duke.
The Duke, yeah.
Yeah, John Wayne.
Little pilgrim action there. I don't know why
his first name was Marion, right? Marion?
Yeah, but that's why he had to learn to kick people's butt.
Yeah, John Wayne sounds much more authoritative.
Marion
really
Michael
helps.
Morrison or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to talk about the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. We're getting into part 3. And we're over halfway done with this book, and we've got another 3 habits or 4 habits to go. I think the 7th habit is kind of repeating everything too. And this is really getting into the paradigm of interdependence. Did I say that right?
Right, because he's taken us through dependence to independence, which is what the first 3 habits were supposed to do, take us from dependence on other to independence. And now we're going to evolve into interdependence with these next 3 habits.
Wow. Yeah. And there, what are you wrote them out here?
Oh yeah. Think win-win, seek first to understand and then be understood. And number 6, synergize, which isn't my favorite word in the world, but yeah, we'll see how he defines that. But I believe a lot in the think win-win. As a matter of fact, my negotiations course is called Win-Win Negotiating. So I do believe in that. So I'm looking forward to this. And I did like this prelude about interdependence, this 20 pages that he talked to about interdependence.
There were some great stories in there, I noticed. We're not going to get into details about them on the show, but the structure that he really covered was really 6 important parts of interdependence. And if we cover these 6 things, and I think that there's a certain importance on the order as well, I think it really sets up the part 3 of the book.
Well, he said that these are ways to make deposits into the emotional bank account. And he does talk about that in the last one, but we can screw up the emotional bank account that we have with other people. So these 6 ways are, well, they're very Dale Carnegie-esque, right? On how to deal more effectively with people.
Right. I think it's a great plan on just setting expectations in any type of new relationship where you want to have that interdependence. But I love the concept of an emotional bank account and really visualizing that when you're having a relationship with somebody, are you making deposits or withdrawals? And he's going to go into these 6 areas. The first one is understand the individual. And he talks about the people in his life don't have the same priorities as he does, but the people in his life are the priority. And whatever is important to the people in his life is then a priority to him.
Right. And that we need to understand what's important to other people. I think of it as the walk a mile in their moccasin sort of thing, or put yourself in the other fellow's shoes. Quit thinking so much about what you want. Interdependence says, I'm going to recognize what you need and what's important to you, and I'm going to try and help you get that.
Right. I'm going to be a little sexist in this comment, but I'll just go back 100, 20 or 30 years.
Send no emails to Scott.
No. Let's go to our website. This is one way of driving traffic to our website.
Yeah, that's right. Let's say something controversial.
Yeah, exactly. So, husbands and wives going shopping. And again, generalizing, a little sexist. Women like to go shopping and men just are kind of turned off by it.
Men go buying.
Yeah, but
I have a thing. I have a destination. I'm going to get that thing as cheap as possible.
But men should think, shopping for my wife is important. So my wife is important. So shopping for my wife with my wife is important. And that's making a deposit in the emotional bank account.
Right. Well, I've been married going on 38 years here, or maybe more than 38 years. And And the best piece of advice I heard was try to outserve one another,
Oh,
which I think really ties into this is think about what the other person wants and try to do it before they have to do it.
I think we were at the same Promise Keepers seminar.
Ah, well, that could be.
That's what I heard. I'm going to outserve you is my motto. Wow. And then another part of this first one, understand the individual is, and I love this line, treat them all the same by treating them differently.
Right.
Wow. I mean,
Right.
try to put that into today's culture is going to be a challenge.
Well, I think it's certainly, as a parent, I think we dealt with that, and Kathy and I really tried to do that. And sometimes it got us into trouble, but you have to look at what that child needs and try to give it to them, no matter what the other children got or how they were treated. And so you do treat people differently because that's what they need to grow most effectively.
Yeah.
But it is hard, and they will use it against you as
they
children like
will.
to do.
Oh, wow. They seem to have great memories in some areas.
That's right.
And poor ones in other.
That's right. All right. What's the next one?
And the next one is number 2 is attending to the little things. And again, it tells a great story about this example, but I thought of it as opening the door for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's not just, guys always opening the doors for ladies. It's guys opening the guys for anybody that goes through the door.
Yeah. I wrote down courtesy, common courtesy. I heard once that courtesy or good manners are the grease that lubricates the gears of society.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, Barney had a solution for this.
Barney who?
Barney, please and thank you for the magic word.
That's good. That's
but
true.
That's what we try to teach people, the basics, and we forget them when we're adults.
We do. Yeah, boy.
I had to do it when I was a kid, but I don't have to be nice when I'm an adult. I can just be slam the door in your face and move on.
Yeah, I think some of the things that bug me the most is when somebody says no problem. I do something and they ask for something and they go no problem. I'm like, oh, okay, well, thanks. I hope it wasn't an inconvenience.
That's right. Or think nothing of it.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. No worries. Yeah, no worries. I wasn't worrying until you brought it up. Now I'm worrying, and why I shouldn't worry, I don't know. But I'm starting to worry.
We forgot how to say thank you or could you help me here?
Yeah.
And we wonder why we're confused because we say no problem, and so then we don't do anything about it because it's not a problem.
The next one, number 3, is keeping commitments. And
this is a favorite of yours.
I love the word commitment.
I thought of Scott Plum when I read this one.
Yes. And I interpret it as that when, most of us are selling a service. When you're selling a service and maintaining value and credibility by following through on the promises and commitments.
Yep. The little ones.
Yeah. I went through a great event yesterday, Minnesota Retail Rally put on by Bruce Newstead of our Minnesota Retailers Association. They had a speaker that talked about a promise made and a promise kept. And this is really working on when you make a promise, following through on it, and create those commitments in a conversation with a prospect and say, if I don't hear from you by Wednesday, is it okay if I call you on Thursday? Yeah, that'd be great. Guess what? You just got permission to call them on Thursday.
Not on Friday, not 2 weeks later.
Right. Follow through on that commitment. And guess what? Your value and credibility goes up. And now they know that they can count on you to make a change.
And that's what we're trying to do, is build that credibility a little step at a time. So it is the small things that we're going to be judged on.
Yeah, exactly. Number 4.
We think people forget. We think, oh, he didn't remember that I was going to call him on Thursday.
Sometimes it goes in the subconscious too. I think that's very powerful. And it's like, why do I just feel like I can't make a change because I can't count on that person? I mean, I have to think about the evidence, and I just don't get the feeling that I can do that.
Great point.
And unfortunately, it has a tremendous impact. Number 4. Clarifying expectations. Oh, I believe this is so true.
Well, it's so important with leadership that they assume we know what they're talking about. They don't make it clear what the repercussions are, what the needs are. Go out there and, get better, go get them Tiger and
work smarter.
Smarter. Yeah. And so we go out there and we do what we think is right. And then we get pinged for it because it wasn't what they had planned but didn't communicate clearly. So I think clarifying expectations is really important, and it's hard to do. We want to be mealy mouse because we don't want to necessarily tell people what we think.
Right. I think a great question is, what do you expect from me from here to there? And the reality is you can never disappoint somebody unless you don't meet their expectations. If you know their expectations, deliver on their expectations, they should be satisfied, ecstatic. I mean, you could get a referral from that person, an introductor to somebody else that they know. Number 5 is showing personal integrity.
Well, this was a big one for me. I see this a lot with people. They talk about other people when they're not in the room, and they don't understand that it makes me suspicious of what they say about me when I'm not in the room.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. I brought up my friend Bruce Newstead earlier, the president of the Minnesota Retailers Association. And Bruce used to be the president of the Twin West Chamber. And I was in the office one time. I was in the conference room and I'm talking to somebody in the conference room and I can hear Bruce in his office and he's talking to this person and he's just having a great time. And I walked from the conference room over to Bruce's office. I go, Bruce, who were you talking to? Oh, well, so-and-so. And I go, Bruce, that's the way you talk to me. The way you were talking to him is the way you talk to me. I thought I was special. And you treat everybody like they're special. And he goes, I really do, Scott. Sorry to disappoint you.
That's right. That's right.
He really had some
But you
great
still are
person-
special, Scott. And let me tell you how you're,
thank you.
you're special. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think that's so true. And we just don't realize how we damage relationships because we talk negatively about people. And I believe in that has a lingering effect too. Even if they don't think, why do they talk about me? You are unnecessarily damaging someone's opportunity to have a good relationship with that person. Just because you didn't have a good experience doesn't mean they won't have a good experience, and you're kind of taking that away from them.
And you don't want to release negative feedback out into the universe. If I could be a little spiritual, because you never know who's going to hear it. And you never know what kind of reputation you're going to be built based on something negative you said to somebody who you thought you could trust, and you didn't know. I mean, they pass it on and they pass it on and they pass it on, and it gets back to somebody you didn't want to have know that.
That's right. That's right.
Number 6, I love this one. Apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal or you screw up. You know, take responsibility for it.
Well, that's what the making a withdrawal is, right? We screw up, we're dishonest, or we say something wrong. And then you have to go back, and it doesn't really fix it. That's the thing you have to remember is I heard a story once of a lady who was a gossip, and she told the priest she felt bad about it. And he said, let's go up to the top of the tower. And he took a pillow with him, a feather pillow. And he said to her, rip that pillow open. She ripped the pillow open at the top of the tower. The feathers went everywhere. He said, now collect those. And he said, that's what happens when you talk negatively about other people. Those, just like those feathers go out into the wind, they can never be taken back again. They're out there. And when you gossip or talk bad about people, that kind of goes back to number 5. But all of these things are withdrawals. When you do these things, they've been done. They can't be undone, even if you apologize. So be careful about how you're treating other people.
Yeah, we're going to talk later about dealing with difficult people. And in working with difficult prospects or even difficult customers, sometimes you screw up. You got to take responsibility for it. And you have to acknowledge that they're bringing something up. You say, thank you for bringing that up.
Yep.
Will you give me another chance to fix it? Yes, I'll fix it. What do they don't want an apology. They want a solution. Like Bill said, they want you to fix it. So fix it. Ask them if the fix met their expectations, and then remind them of your appreciation. Thank you again for bringing that forward. I apologize for any inconvenience that may have caused.
Excellent.
One apology at the end. Continue to apologize, and you know what? They don't want an apology. They lose credibility for you. They want it to be fixed. And sometimes the prospects will say that, I don't want an apology. I want you to fix it. Right. Okay, I'll fix it.
But the apology acknowledges it and gets the start on the fix so that everyone recognizes it's happening. So I think it's really important. And I know in customer service, problems are opportunities to create customer loyalty.
Oh, so true.
So when we do have problems or things go wrong, we'll be judged not on the fact that they went wrong, but what we did about those things. And if we deal with it quickly and efficiently, then customer loyalty can grow.
Yeah. There's one last quote that I'll share out of the book. It is more noble to give yourself completely to one individual than to labor diligently for the salvation of the masses. And
who said that, Scott?
That was Dag Homer. Oh,
I wanted to make you say it.
Yeah, I know you did. You were saying,
I think he was
Dutch.
Yeah, it could be. I think he was. I might be wrong, but I think he was the head of the United Nations at one point.
Oh boy,
Dag Hammarskjöld.
Okay.
So anyway, all right, good. Yeah, good chapter. I really enjoyed this. As we also often happens, although we don't plan this, it sounds like we do. This is going to have a lot of tie into dealing with difficult people that we're going to talk about as topic 2.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, our key topic today is dealing with difficult people. And in the intro, I said, no matter how much you try to avoid some knucklehead, once in a while, you're going to run into a real jerk. And I remember one manager I was coaching at an organization, and maybe you've had a similar situation, but he said to me, he came from some kind of a tough background, and he said, well, he yelled at the staff all the time. And I confronted him about this as part of my coaching. And he said, if I'm yelling at them, they have an opportunity to improve. If I quit yelling at them, they're doing things right. And that's how they'll know they're doing things right. And I thought, I don't think that's really very positive. And everyone hates you that I've spoken to. And within 4 months, he was gone, going off to wreck another company with his philosophy of, I told you, what's the old joke? I told you I loved you when I married you. And if it changes, I'll let you know.
Exactly.
So they start off at 0. And if they don't screw up, I don't yell at them. Well, that's just not the way it's done. So I don't know. Have you had any kind of situation you've had to deal with like that?
I've learned more from my bad bosses and bad clients than the good ones. And we need to keep in mind that everybody's fighting their own battle that we know nothing about. Right. And you never know what's going on at home. You never know what's going on in their personal life. You never know what they do when they go home. Right. And these days people, there's some challenges that people have a tough time dealing with, and you got to give them a little bit of grace and a little bit of patience. And I think the most important thing is that you don't escalate it. You work on de-escalating it, and you listen. I think is the first thing that I think people need to really practice doing better, and empathizing, and then getting a point where we're talking about a constructive conversation about what action needs to be taken next.
Yeah. So much of it is our own attitude and how we react to things. I know you've talked a lot about the difference between reacting and responding. Mm-hmm. I've read so much over the years, and probably 3 of my favorite books, which are integrated in my tips for how to deal with difficult people, are going to be Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends, John Maxwell's Developing the Leader Within You, and Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking. I wish I was more original. I wish I had my own ideas, but I steal copiously from great thinkers like these and other things that I've read and dealt with. So you talked about listening and how important it is. That's my number 2 tip, is to be a good listener. And we've mentioned this before on the show. When I'm in a conference with a situation that needs to be taken importantly, I have my pad of paper out for my notes, and I'm writing SU at the top to tell myself, remind myself to shut up, let the other person talk.
Yeah. And I think when you're working with somebody and they're getting upset with you, as long as you just keep listening and you don't respond, and sometimes they get upset when you don't respond, which is kind of funny. Mm-hmm. And you just gotta say, I'm listening. You're sharing something that's important to me, and
you haven't taken a breath yet, so there's not been a lot of opportunity for me.
I'm just ready to call 911 in case you pass out, because
have an aneurysm here.
Making sure we've got a defibrillator in the hallway, and we've got 911 on the phone.
So listening is really key. Quit trying to make your point all the time. Let them make their point. I think of it like a volcano that sometimes has to erupt if they're angry, and let them vent. And after they've exploded all that out, then we have an opportunity for them to listen, or for us to have a discussion. So I think that's important. And my number 1 tip is to build other people up. And it reminded me of your friend in the retail group, who you said, always treated everyone nicely, and you were hoping it was just you, but you don't hope it's you. He's the kind of person that builds other people up. And when we are building other people up, it's hard to be against us, because we've created this vision that they think I'm a special person. And if they think I'm special, even if I get mad at them, I can't get too mad at them.
Right. Bruce never said a bad word about anybody, too. Bruce Newstead, for those of you that know him, never said a bad word about anybody. And it's one of the skills that is one of the behaviors that I admire. And I've told him that. I said, God, I am too opinionated. I end up sharing what I think to other people. And I think it's kind of a gift when I'm sharing my opinion. Not everybody feels the same way.
Yeah, really. You're
Because
so lucky to hear from me.
when I share my opinion, I'm sharing with you my beliefs, my most sacred beliefs, my internal operating system. I'm sharing that with you. And my family definitely doesn't think that it's a gift at all.
Well, you're the
But
oldest brother, so
I am, but I wish that I was less opinionated, or
Yep.
I wish that I shared less when it comes to my opinion, because when you're working with a board or you've got prospects and customers out there, you never know where your words are going to fall.
Right. Right. I think that's so important. And, the interesting thing with people like Bruce, if he got a little upset and he said to you, Scott, I really need to sit down and talk with you about something you've done.
Oh, I'd love it.
Can you imagine how seriously you take it, though?
Oh, definitely.
If he had to chastise you even the slightest, it would be so meaningful. And then there's people who yell all the time, and it's like it gets to the point where you don't that's just Bill. He's just he's a hothead. So
yeah, right, exactly.
All right. My third tip is focus on the positive aspects of other people. Think about, instead of always thinking about what's bad about them. And again, this is what your friend Bruce probably does. Instead of thinking about what they made you mad about, think about what they do well. And if you're focused on that all the time, then you're going to be much more positive about the way you treat that person. And I think a lot of our feelings come out unconsciously in the way that we deal with people. So when we talk badly about people at the water cooler, then when we get them on the phone, we have a little bit of an edge to our voice. But if we're talking about how good they are, then we're going to have a whole different intent in our voice.
So true.
Any other ideas that you had?
I've got a system that I use and share with others, and it's called the BIFF system, BIFF. And the B stands for keeping it brief. And in most cases, it's kind of limited to a paragraph. It's sharing, not a lot of information. So, give them straight information when you're responding to an email or, talking with them face to face. And focus on information versus emotions. Don't use your opinions, and don't get into defensiveness or get into arguments. You don't need to defend yourself when another person is being hostile, because it's not about you. It's about their inability to manage their emotions and responses. So just stay focused on providing relative information.
Yeah, don't take it personally, right?
Yeah. The first F is friendly. So this may seem hard to do when you're being attacked in writing or verbally, but you avoid feeding the hostilities, and it may even, calm the other person when you're friendly with them. So they might match and mirror your behavior. So a friendly greeting at the beginning of an email or a text, and it helps keep the hostility from escalating. And it shows that, you're holding back self-restraint, which the other person might respect.
Right.
And then the last one is to be firm. And this means that you end the conversation rather than feeding on the hostility, and you're keeping your position, but you don't want it to be interpreted as being harsh. So just avoid anything that opens the door for more hostility comments to come back, and say something that calms in the end of the conversation. So,
and you don't have to agree with them.
Right.
And you don't have to give yourself up to agree with them. That doormat situation. Say, okay, well, I guess you're right then. No, that's not really going to help you either.
And frame the last sentence in the form of a question that would be, answered yes or no. And make no okay if that's it, or make yes okay if that's it. But it's just a way to keep it really concise. So don't add attacks in there. Don't make it really long, because the more information you share, the more triggers you could pull, and more landmines you could step on. So just keep it brief. BIFF.
All right, good advice. So a couple more tips that I have. Put yourself in the other person's place. And that's very similar to what Stephen Covey said, understand the individual. So we've talked about that, how important that is. Use questions to guide the conversation. Quit trying to make declarative statements. I think this, I believe this. Tell me more. Help me understand. How did that make you feel? What kind of situation did that put you in? Let them totally examine all the feelings and issues that went on with that, so that you can get full understanding and a full feeling of how emotionally they dealt, why they're dealing with this so emotionally.
Yeah.
One thing I like to do is sometimes consider the possibility that I could be wrong. And so often when people are angry at us, we get defensive and we start to support a position that's insupportable. And I'm not going to let this person push me around, even though if I really thought of it in my own quiet heart, I wouldn't like what I said or did either. So put that into the verbal to say, look, I want to have this conversation. I'm very open to the idea that I could have done something wrong. I could be wrong. So let's talk it through. And I think those can help ease the conversation. This ties in right to something you said, maintain your composure, right? Keep it friendly. You said, I say, maintain your composure. I like to speak softly as tempers rise. So you'll notice when people get upset, their voices rise, the volume rises, the pace quickens. And if you can slow it down, keep your voice softer, you can help them control themselves a little bit. Two, again, you also said separate the issue from the personality. Don't make it about who they are, who you are, whatever that is. And so I think that ties into what you said. And I have one more, which is just avoid them if you can. If you're not going to get along with someone, I just can't get along with everybody. There's going to be some people that we're just oil and water. Now, sometimes it's my kids and I have to learn how to get along with them. But if there's somebody that I can just avoid, then I'll just avoid them. I can't avoid my boss. I probably can't avoid my customers, but I may be able to avoid a coworker and just not put myself in a situation where we're going to have an argument. So those are some of the tips that I have.
I've been in situations where I'm getting into a confrontation and I'll say, I'm sorry, I just don't have the energy to take this discussion on right now. I don't want to avoid it. I want to talk about it, but right now I just don't have the capacity and the bandwidth to be able to discuss it. Is it something that we can talk about more tomorrow?
Right.
And that's a de-escalation without minimizing the other person's position or saying whatever you're talking about or discussing or arguing is not important.
Right.
You're just saying, I just don't have the energy to talk about this right now. And I don't think that I'm going to be able to say anything that's really going to help us get to a way of working together on it. Can we talk about it tomorrow? And
Excellent.
That's always a great way of just de-escalating it, having a good night's rest, coming back, and you're engaging in a little bit more of an intellectual conversation versus an emotional one.
Yeah, we're all tired at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's why it is a challenge if you come home and your spouse is upset at you and they just lace into you and surprise you with something. It's like, wow, this isn't going to go well because the timing is just wrong for this because we're not sitting down and talking about it. And so often these things escalate because someone has let it go until they're angry. So if you're in that seat where you're upset with somebody, don't let it go until you're angry. Deal with it before things get to that aspect so that you can have a much more calm discussion and let them know, look, this made me feel this way. And it was very challenging to me.
When somebody texts me in the late afternoon, early evening, and they got more energy than I do, I go, it sounds like somebody got a nap today. I didn't. So I might not have the same level of energy.
Well. Yeah. And I haven't been stewing about this for the last hour and a half.
Exactly.
While you've been out, doing your thing and stewing while, because I should have helped you or whatever. So, all right, good. I do have a blog on this called Developing Charisma that people might find interesting, and they can get that link on the website. And then I also have room for one more. I heard from a couple of people, but I can do one more presentation of what scares salespeople. So if you'd like me to do that virtually for your group or your networking organization or for your sales team, I'd be happy to do that. So just contact me through winningatselling.com.
It's a great offer. This segment has been brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of the Winning at Selling podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future. So our golden nugget today comes from a familiar author, Stephen Covey.
Heard of him.
I think we're going to get into this one somewhere in the book, but I thought it was relevant to the topics that we're covering today, and I wanted to include it as our golden nugget of the day. And it is, you can't talk your way out of a problem you behaved yourself into.
I think his kid told him that, and that was in the story on apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal.
Oh, was it in there?
I think his kid said, you can't, he repeated his quote to him. So that's always, there's nothing worse than having your own thoughtful words thrown back in your face when you screw up. So
it's very similar to what did Einstein say? The same thinking that created the problem is not the same thinking that can fix it.
That's right. That's right. Or don't get angry for results you don't get for work you didn't do.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah. I've heard you say that before.
Yep. All right. So you can get all this great information, listen to the podcasts, and get our contact information if you want to contact us at winningatselling.com. And please, if you have questions, issues, we're starting to collect questions again for our next question answer show. So all of that, the show notes will be at winningatselling.com.
Our next episode will be on habit number 4, think win-win, pages 204 to 234. And our topic will be, are you too money motivated?
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.